We're going back to check if Oladapo is there. I didn't. Sorry, is it Adedapo? Sorry. Well, still not your turn. We're going to Kenny. Kenny 09, we can't hear you. You've unmuted your mic, but you're not audible.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Well, I basically came in to listen because I found the topic of the room interesting. I guess I have to speak.
I can't hear you. We are struggling.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, my brother Moses. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
All right, good. Thank you. So, I was struggling not to delve into partisan political discussion, but like Prof said just before me, saying the president is the father of the nation is, and then trying to use that as a road to beat the learned person on stage is embarrassing. Is elected president of the country, not the father of the country, for blessing, please. It's an employee of the people. Mindset is part of the problem we have as Nigerians. Our mindset, our understanding of democracy we claim to practice is warped. And it's a problem from the grassroots. Civic education is deliberately hidden from us, even in our school system. So we end up with lots of anecdotes and lots of aphorisms that allow our political elite to take advantage of us. When you see somebody is the father of the nation, what's the next step? Do not insult your father. Do not call your father to order. And you become a tyrant of a son if you critique your father. So that aside, and then saying don't import generators. Ban the import of generators while the country is producing 3,000 megawatts of electricity. It's like you have a child that is having severe anemia, PCV 4%, and you say you want to ban blood transfusion, so the child must produce blood by it. You want to kill, and people that have ears and are listening, and especially those that live in the country, open your ears wide, shine your eyes. The nightmare that is going on right now, the people that put you in there, they have not learned anything. Okay, I move to the topic. Now the topic says no region better off on its own. That is a lie. Off the top of my head, many people can, anybody being honest can agree that I'm not a Southerner, but at least if we go by the 6 regions we say we have in Nigeria, a South on their own, they are better off easily. At least economically, they are better off. Middle belt or North Central, as we call it, I'm sure they are better off security wise if they are on their own, because the genocidal massacres going on right now would not be happening if they had the their own law enforcement agencies. I'm talking of military, police, and other. At least self-defense will reign supreme. So easily you can tell that there are regions that are better also. And this is still the same self-perpetuating deceit that selling one Nigeria forces on the proponents. Nigeria is an unsellable product. It's a hard sell. Gajo, very bright guy, spoke for minutes talking about the dangers of what will happen if everybody goes their separate ways. Not one or two words about this is the advantage of all of us together as one. Oh, our number is good. Because every possible point you want to raise as what brings us together as a nation is easily debunked by the lived realities of many of us and by common sense, really. So a lot of the points I'm sure has been spoken already. I don't want to beat around. I just want to talk about two things: security. Policing. And by saying police, I don't mean the police for Nigeria Police Force alone. A key component of nationhood, because the primary responsibility of any government, before anything else, is first the security of its people or our people. Second thing is now the welfare. Security first, then welfare. I saw a story on Twitter any hours of this morning of a Nigerian guy that he went to the passport office, was going back for FCID officers of Alagbo or so, stopped the car, took the guy, demanded 10 million. The guy was 12, a few minutes to 12 a.m. He would have slept in that cell when his father's friend, who was an AIG, got him out of that gulag. That is the absurdity of the country we operate. The Nigerian, somebody asked a rhetorical question. If you as a Nigerian living in Nigeria, you are working, this is a Monday evening, Monday evening, you are working on the road with $10,000 in your pocket. can you comfortably share that information with a Nigerian police officer you meet on the road and say, "Oh, I have 10,000 in my pocket"? That is the moment where that might be the last your family will hear of you. The Nigerian army that is supposed to defend the territorial integrity of Nigeria, the lives and property of Nigeria, the territorial integrity of Nigeria, that is the unit that is supposed to be the most patriotic of patriotic entities in Nigeria. Shot and killed people singing national anthem, armless people singing national anthem, swaddled in the national colors. So how more patriotic do you expect me to be than the Nigerian army? How much more patriotic do you expect me to be than the Nigerian police? So the institutions of state do not believe in the country. The politicians, the rich guys that you talk about, you say the elites, they are all one. They do not keep their resources in the country. They do not get healthcare in the country. Their children don't school in the country. So who am I to believe in the country? It's an unsellable product. If you say everybody go your way, there will still be problems. Absolutely, there will be problems. But if you say it will be harder to solve, I beg to disagree. Because one of the core things that keeps a country together, like the United States example that everybody keeps revolving back to Olumori and Co. The United States, at least they have a common ground. Republicans and Democrats, there's this eternal go between them. But there's a point they meet in that the constitution of the supremacy of the constitution of the Federal Republic, of the United States, and the fact that they all willfully joined the union and they have the option to pull out. So those are core figures. That is the strongest rope that ties them together despite their differences. What is the rope that ties us together as Nigerians? Apart from the fact that we were cobbled together by our what's it called now? I don't want to call them. Our conquerors, really, the British. So there's no Nigerian dream. The aspiration, what kind of country do you want? Do you want a socialist country? Do you want let me know. No, political policy theory can even differ. Do you want a secular nation? Do you want a religious inclined nation? Do you want a truly free nation where somebody can declare that, okay, this and this and this and this, I do not believe in this and this, and go scot-free? So there are some fundamental incongruence that is prevalent in the country that cannot be resolved no matter how hard you try. So the no region better off on its own is not true. We are strong as one nation. How strong are we? All right. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay. Can I go down? Who's speaking, please? Adedapo, I'm back. Sure, you're welcome to. All right, thank you very much. So, interestingly, I haven't really heard anybody on the One Nigeria Brigade articulate any arguments regarding why Nigeria is better together. In most cases, what I've heard is usually that the bashing of people or the agitators and the agitation itself. So I would really love to hear those well articulated arguments about, for instance, the economic benefits of Nigeria still being one, the social cultural benefits, all these things. Well, I hardly hear them, and I would beseech anyone who is in that camp to please offer some arguments, because it enriches the argument. I'm really open to learning, actually. So now that said, to speak to the topic of the room, and I know that particular statement came from the vice president, or the so-called vice president. Politicians use three instruments in actually deceiving the people. So they use sophistry, they use paralogism, and they use rhetoric. So these are instruments they carefully use to evade responsibilities, right? So when someone like Osinbajo saying things like, "Oh, we are better together, we're stronger together," or someone like Buhari saying Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable, and then you hear people saying, "No, one Nigeria is better off," and all. They are just rhetorics, right? And then in the course of asking questions, but okay, so what do you mean by Nigeria is stronger together? They start giving you some paralogical statements, right? Statements that actually lead you to lead them to false arguments. And then they come up with sophistry in the sense that it sounds really good because it appeals to our moral sentiments. When you say things like, oh, we are stronger together, we are better off together, and all that. You kind of, unity is a good thing. It's a positive thing, right? So, when those statements are made, they appeal to your moral sentiments. You align with those things, and you're like, yeah, I think I want that. But then the problem is that you might not be able to interrogate it properly, and it wings you. So, but what we are doing right now is to actually engage critically in terms of, okay, when we say Nigeria is better together, what does it? Doesn't even make sense. Do we even have the correct framework for that to happen, right? And if we are being honest, we do know that Nigeria has never been this united country that we all push these days, because you can look at the inception of the country itself. I don't even want to go back to the 40s or 50s or whatever. Let's start from the 60s. And I made this point before, right? Political parties were basically created along ethnic lines. In fact, when the likes of MPN, UPN were created in the 70s, 80s or thereabouts, the groups that actually formed these political parties, the mafias that actually formed the political parties, were also along ethnic lines, right? So you had like the Pantang Mafia, the Kaduna Mafia, all these guys were basically pushing ethnic narratives, right? And then we have in our constitution things like state of origin, quota system, all these things that actually, they foster the division itself. But somehow, the political leaders and actors, again, they use the rhetorics and the paralogism and sophistry to indicate that we are united one way or the other, which is just fast out, because we are not. We've never been, and because they don't really want to get down to work and really create the framework that will actually enable that unity. Those rhetorics help them to evade their responsibilities. Now, if we know that, and this is factual, African nations were deprived of the opportunity to form nations and build their systems with their indigenous values and institutions, then we would understand why a lot of groups till today in Africa, not just Nigeria, are still clamoring for some form of self-determination, separation, or secession, whatever you want to call it, right? But we can also say that, well, we might still be able to look at working with the current reality, still working within the current creations that we have, which are obviously products of European colonialism. But if we are to even do that, we then need to really ensure there's actually a framework and what like which so there's consensus.
We're talking plenty about my life,
within
plenty
that
politics,
state, the modern state, come together to then say,
and so on and so forth.
These are the terms.
5 o'clock
of engagement. These are the things that are going to be mutually beneficial to us. This is the structure we are going to adopt. Have that conversation, and then ensure that things like justice, equity, fairness, and all those things become the incentives for people to come together and see themselves as a collective, right? But we've not done that. And we have leaders who are deliberately not doing that because they know things like ethnicity and all that still favors them, right? And we, the people, somehow we've been doing to a point where, like I said, they've used the rhetorics to appeal to our moral sentiments, and we don't engage critically to really tell them to actually get to work and build one Nigeria, and build that one Nigeria based on a consensual framework. But we don't do that. And for me, I'll just end with a solution-based perspective, right? I think there are 4 things that we can look at if Nigeria or even any other African nation must work. So, one is to create a national framework within which all groups can identify without any distinction, right? So that would allude to some form of homogeneity, but that would not be appropriate for a country like Nigeria based on our pluralistic reality. We are quite plural ethnically. So The second option would then be to create that framework, that pluralistic framework that accommodates all the ethnic nations, right? And then you have like a federal arrangement where, the needs and the interests of the groups within that state are accommodated, right? And then there is this uniting commitment to the progress and prosperity of the entire country. And then we can have leaders who are going to invest and commit to building a national identity, which will then be a strong unifying force. Now, if we don't do that, then I think another thing will probably be, to again divide the countries and then have a power sharing formula. So ethnic nations can recognize themselves as individual and independent entities, but then they could have some form, we could say a confederal arrangement, which is different from a federal arrangement. And they could work out the details of that confederal arrangement. Or the last bit will be partition. And, I don't know why Africans are so, and I don't want to generalize anyways, but let me just say Nigerians, well, the ones who are in the other camp, I don't know why they are so fearful of, that reality, because I don't think it's going to be problematic. I actually think that it's, again, I've said this before, it's just a lack of imagination on the part of the leaders and the lack of audacity on the part of the people to actually envision and even imagine a new reality. So you can actually partition Nigeria just the same way India was partitioned into the dominion of India and dominion of Pakistan. Right, and then Pakistan was further broken down to Bangladesh and all that. But we can't do that. We can definitely do that, and that does not mean it has to be on the basis of violence or it has to result into some form of conflict or tension. Right, the partitioning could be done amicably when these nations recognize that they are better off apart than being together. Right, and then again they can have other economic arrangements, whether in terms of trading together or whatever. That can still be done. We don't necessarily have to maintain colonial borders just because we've been socialized within these states and systems, and we think that our so-called identity is on the cusp of being being expunged once there is such a thing as secession or partition. No, your identity as you have it today, it's not really actually genuine. In fact, I don't even think we have an identity yet. And that is the reason why people still retreat to their ethnic identities. And unless anybody is deceiving himself or herself, I tell you this, your identity is more than just putting down Nigeria or Nigerian in front of your name or whatever. It encapsulates your values, your principles, and all sorts of things, including your myths too. And you don't have that as a Nigerian, but you do have that in various ethnic identities, right? But again, like I said, if we really want Nigeria to be together, then we should hold these leaders accountable and tell them to get to work and build that framework that will ensure that unity. And if that's not going to be the case, then partitioning is also, possible. And I don't think they have heard any arguments, strong arguments against that particular option. So I'll yield here for now.
So yeah, I guess I'm the next.
Yes. But hold on, Olami. Huh?
Yeah, let me.
Oyeka, okay, I guess you want to say something, but Oyeka, I wanted to make some remarks, right? I guess you can also go, and then Zainab will take over, right? The lead mod role in the room. So starting with Ade and Olami, or with Olami and then Ade. But I wanted to make some remarks. So my own remarks are that I think Nigeria is clearly better together. To me, it couldn't be clearer. A nation of 200 million people is a large internal market. All of the different parts of Nigeria have different strengths. They bring enormous strengths to bear. They have resources. They have different types of zones. They have different ways of looking at things. They have different lived histories in which is embedded a lot of wisdom. it's just inconceivable to me that adding all of that together successfully is not going to be a lot of strength. And I know Iman shut down the idea of America, but I would actually point to America as a place where we can learn one or two things about this. The strength of America is the ability to just bring the best of everywhere together, literally. From when the place started taking off, literally what they did was they took all the wealthy people in the world, a lot of the wealthy people in the world. If you were wealthy and you were not royalty, chances were that you could move to America. Why was it so attractive to move to America? Because it had a large population, endless amounts of land and natural resources, and then you could multiply your wealth from there. It was a good, strong base. And that's the way I see it as well with Nigeria. So if you think about the life of nations is millennia. One region can be poor today and can be very rich tomorrow. We've already seen that happen already in the course of Nigerian history, as short as it has been. If you just focus on educating every child and giving skills to every single individual and creating an economy that creates opportunity across board, then you would have that large internal market. And why is that large internal market important? Well, it's important because it allows your companies to become competitive internationally. It allows your country to have a strong voice internationally. It allows your people to have a certain pride of place in the world. So despite everything, it's very easy for people to forget that Nigeria is the richest Black country in the world. And that is a fact. Whichever way you look at it, whether you look at it in terms of the wealth, okay, the capital stock of the country, which is a good measure of wealth, mention of which Black country is doing better. Mention which Black country where individuals own banks, they own oil companies, they own mining companies, they own shipping companies, they own airlines, they own significant real estate. Nigeria has the potential to be a Black superpower, to be the Black superpower. Nigeria is a consequential nation in the world. Nigeria might be on its knees and crawling, but I would say that the reason that is so is because Nigerians are on their knees and crawling. You see, a lot of the people are not focused on a positive vision for the future. In fact, since I've been in this room, that's like 3 hours now, the only person who I have heard who referred to this particular point is Osigwe. What is your vision for the future? What are we going to produce and sell to the world? How are we going to create a world, a space that maximizes the potential of every individual and creates economic opportunity? Because people don't have an answer to that, I do. And we can have rooms about that. Because people don't have an answer to that, they try to fill it up with ethnicity. They try to fill it up with identity. And there's nothing wrong with identity. There's nothing wrong with ethnicity. I love Yoruba culture. I totally, deeply love. Anybody who knows me will tell you that I am in love with Yoruba culture. I'm always looking to learn more about my culture. I'm very deeply rooted in it and attached to it. However, That is the exact point for me. My culture is still there. It's still intact. My homeland is there and free within Nigeria. Now, the question is, it's not even a question. Where I stand, I don't see anything that an ethnic enclave, if your vision is that the only path forward is to create an ethnic enclave, that is repugnant to me. For me, there are several reasons why that would never work. Why? Because one of the first reasons is that just look at every single thriving modern nation. I remember that Olami mentioned Denmark. And contrary to what he said, I've never lived in Denmark. I've lived in Italy, I've lived in France, I've lived in the US. I've never lived in Denmark. I did work for the Danish government in the Danish Foreign Ministry, but I've never lived in Denmark. But even now, that said, countries like Denmark, even small homogeneous societies, on the basis of history, they're homogeneous mostly because of the climatic zone that they occupy. The rest of Europe is not really homogeneous. The German nationality identity today, there was a time when all the way were Prussians and Bavarians and whatnot. And Italians, when they were simply Milanese or Veronese or whatever else. Or the French, when they were Aquitaine or they were Marseillaise or they were, etc.
Mayonnaise.
And then now they're French. There's been a process of homogenization. And that process of homogenization has happened in China, which is also a diverse country. It has happened at some level, though they still have a long way to go, in India. But let me even go back to the US. This was the country that was founded by white people, yes. White supremacy, yes. Yes. But did they go and say, this state is the Italian territory? It's for the Italians, so we're going to create a space where all we do is speak Italian here. Did we say, we're going to create this space and it's going to be for the Poles, and this one's going to be for the Norwegians, and this one's going for the Welsh? That wasn't what they did. They created one single culture, and they said, one single national culture, and they said, look, you're welcome here, you retain your culture. Go totally free to retain your culture and be your culture in this space. But that's not the basis of your participation here. And that's what I want to recommend to Nigerians. And because that's what I recommend to Nigerians, and because I see that as a necessary ingredient to thriving countries, you see, the time of ethnic nationalism has gone and is significantly discredited. When this is not 100 years ago. It's a new era. And in this era, societies are multi-ethnic, cosmopolitan, plural. And I think Nigeria should move towards that as well. And the other thing is, I just don't see the fundamental flaw I see in any drive for secession or whatever in Nigeria is that I don't think it will succeed. I'm absolutely certain it won't succeed. That's number one. And personally, I hope it doesn't succeed. Why? If it happened, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I would probably be able to live with it, so long as the people who fashion the new countries are not the people who are selling it on Clubhouse. Because their ideologies are whack, in my opinion. We can live with it. But my own problem is that fundamentally, I don't trust the Nigerian political class to sit down together and negotiate a settlement. And that if you actually think about it, I have been part of a simulation of a Nigerian group in the US, which we had over a weekend, and we simulated how you could break up Nigeria. And in every single scenario, it led to bloodbath. And for me, why should we be people who don't learn? We've been through this in the 60s. And for me, the lesson of Nigerian Civil War is never ever do war. Never. Don't do it. Don't go there. And don't even start along that path by giving power or hero worship or pride of place or utility to any strong man or warlord or whatever. Not Sunday Igboho, not any of those people. Don't give them. And I don't trust them to sit down together and negotiate. And I actually would posit that there are many, 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 many funny issues that will make it very, very difficult for it to be possible. If you were going to have an Ijaw nation, for example, where would you put it? Because would you take out of Delta State to add to Ijaw nation? And what would the people of Warri have to say about that? Where are your borders of your ethnic nationalities? You think they're actual borders? No, they aren't. You will see serious disputes. Osun State and Oyo State were caught. Do you know how many disputes they still have on administrative issues? Not border, administrative issues. And those are brothers that speak the same language. So just in summary, because I know it's been a long one. For me, Nigeria is better together. Nigeria is better together because and I know it's a big if you find a way to maximize the potential of every single individual, this is going to be a black superpower, and it's going to give us pride and place. And because I've noticed, I'm sorry if anybody thinks it's a low blow, I don't mean it as such. I myself was in the diaspora. I noticed that the most strident people I've met, because I live in Lagos and I live in the Southwest. I go to Ibadan regularly, I go to Abeokuta regularly, and I go to Ibarakpa. I can tell you that when I talk to all kinds of people, the most strident people talking about separation of Nigeria or blah, 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 or balkanization or whatever are diaspora people. And I'm sorry, part of the reason why you are so attached to that idea is because maybe you don't have a proud black homeland that you've led back to, or that you're looking forward to coming back to. And that's the more reason why I will point out to you that if we can achieve that, it's not going to be easy. But it's down to all of us. Let us make it work. Last statement, my very last statement. I don't see any problem that separation or balkanization solves for me. Nobody has shown me one single thing that's going to do for me, that's going to add to me, or add to my community, or add to my family, or add to my generation, or even add to my state, or even add to my people. Nobody has shown me one thing, but I can see many things it can take from us, including our peace, including the ability to have that large internal market, including the many intangible ways that the other Nigerians enrich us. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Sorry.